All right, so we're continuing on with our Chapter 2 notes. This is video number 3 of our Chapter 2 notes. And here we have where we talked in our last set of notes about the setting the perimeter of the scene and establishing those perimeters and measuring so that you know the perimeter and area of your scene. The next piece is measuring and marking your evidence positions. So this is what we call the triangulation method. So I'm just going to write that right here. So triangulate, right? We're triangulating, we're making triangles. So if this is where my evidence is here, I want to measure from my piece of evidence to my border, and then from my piece of evidence to my border. Sorry, that line got so big. Don't know why that did that. It was like a little bit weird. So let's just erase that, and we'll go back to my pen. Right, so then we also then can measure then on the diagonal to the corner. And so this is going to be important when we do our final sketch of the crime scene, because we want to be able to replicate the scene in as much detail as possible, because that's going to make for a stronger case in court. So the forensic lab technicians are specialized to process only one type of evidence. The person that's analyzing fingerprints is not the same person that analyzes blood spatter, and that's not the same person who analyzes the hardware and the software from computers, right? Computer evidence. So the crime scene reconstruction involves what we form a hypothesis of the sequence of events from before the crime was committed through its commission. Remember, so we want to go back through prior to the crime until the crime, not after the crime. So I'm just going to make sure that we say not after the crime has been committed, right? We stop that afterwards. So comparing the evidence to witness statements. We have to compare, what do the witnesses say, what does the evidence say? And the investigators need to maintain an open mind as they examine all possibilities. And so basically what you need to do is you need to be able to check your bias. Not go into an investigation with your mind set on saying someone is the suspect, they are guilty, because that is not going to be, because at that point in time, your brain will filter out evidence that does not support what your preconceived notion may be of who committed a crime. So you have to be able, and it takes a lot of work to be able to open up your mind like that and examine all the possibilities and all of the suspects and follow all of the paths. So commonly there are staged crime scenes. Some crime scenes are staged to make it look like a different crime than what originally happened. So murders staged to look like suicides. Arson is very frequently used as a staged crime scene to, of course, get rid of evidence. And burglary, right? So a scene, something happens in a crime, and then the suspect will make it look like a burglary when in fact it wasn't a burglary at all. So that's called a staged crime scene. So in summary for this unit, the Locard's principle of exchange, right, is our big part, right? That's going to lead us into all of the evidence we're going to examine for the rest of the year. How does that evidence get there? It gets there because every contact leaves a trace. And the evidence could be direct, like an eyewitness account. Remember, eyewitness testimony can be faulty. It can be circumstantial, right? So maybe blood type, or it could be DNA, which does not directly support a fact. Evidence can be physical or biological, right? So fibers, a shoe, a knife, right? That would be physical evidence. And biological could be things like blood or semen or other traces or sources of DNA, like saliva. Trace evidence is what we call really small evidence, and DNA technology has gotten so precise that you really just need an extremely small amount in order to get DNA from a sample. Crime scene investigation, right? Those are the people that are involved in the crime scene, right? So the summary of the unit, these are all the things you should be able to do by the unit test. The crime scene, you have to recognize, document, photograph, and collect evidence, right? Those are going to follow those 7 S's. The first responding officer, right, needs to be the one to secure the scene and identify any secondary crime scenes. So a secondary crime scene would be like an example for a bombing. For example, you have your primary crime scene, which is where the bomb went off itself, and then you also have your secondary crime scenes, which would be where